It's Friday. Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Thomas. Yeah, hanging out in for Barney and Tegan on this Friday, the first Friday of February. The 6th of the day is here. Colson Schultz and I to keep you Well, I was going to say that we're going to try to be handy, but we're going to keep you company over the next 3 hours as we've got lots to talk about. Moments from now, we're going to be heading down to San Francisco and talking to Farhan Lalji, the site of Super Bowl 60. We'll hear from him as well a little bit later on. We're going to talk to NHL Hall of Famer Sheldon Kennedy will drop by. Pats are back in action tonight. They've only played 4 games in 12 days. And I'll let that sink in for you in a moment. We're going to hear from their head coach, Brad Herauf, is going to join us live from the Brand Center as they get set to host the Saskatoon Blades tonight. That's coming up a little bit later on. Plus, the Ottawa REDBLACKS. I just keep taking Rough Rider players, and I keep losing track of it. Jakubec, he is their official radio play-by-play voice. He's going to join us to tell us how they were able to entice so many former Riders to head that way during the CFL free agent negotiation window. That's in store, plus a whole bunch more here on a Friday with the SportsCage. Colson Schultz, as I mentioned, running the controls. It's all brought to you by Nelson Homes, supplying home packages and RTMs for over 65 years. Lots going on in the world of sports. Let's take a look at your headlines today. The Saskatchewan Roughriders went ahead and released what the Grey Cup Tour is going to look like, of course, beginning tomorrow night in Humboldt with the Broncos. That was where they said, following the Humboldt Broncos bus crash, that the first time we win the Grey Cup, it's coming there first, and it will be there tomorrow night. So an opportunity at the Humboldt Broncos SJHL game to see the Grey Cup. That's making headlines today. Also headlines today, including the Regina Pats being back on the ice tonight. I talked about it before. 4 games in 12 days for the Pats, but the stretch run is a very real thing because it's going to be a sprint now to the finish. They sit 2 points out of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. They have games in hand on the teams behind them and ahead of them. They've actually played the fewest games out of anybody in the Western Hockey League. Can they get into the postseason? We'll find out. That game starts 7 o'clock tonight at Brand Center. You'll hear the pregame talk with Dante DeCaria and crew starting at 6:30. The Olympics, we really can't talk about what's happening, right, Colson, when it comes to the opening ceremonies. We can just tell you that they're happening, right?
That's what I read in our media notes, yeah.
I don't want to get sued.
Exactly. From what I gathered, it's you can talk after the event is concluded. Mm-hmm. For like about 48 hours, you can show the clips and stuff. Yeah. And then you're not allowed to touch it. And I'm like, this seems so oddly specific.
There's very intricate rules when it comes to the Olympics. We will skirt them and tell you that they open today. However, the games actually started beforehand. Mark McMorris, of course, ruled out of the big air competition after that crash where he hit his head. That was his assessment of what happened. He's still going to take part in the slope style event. And I thought to myself, okay, that's cool. Maybe it's later on in the games or next week. No, that's coming up this weekend. So not a lot of rest and recovery time for Mark McMorris. But
quick turnaround.
Yeah, he'll have the opportunity. And you know what? The guy hung around for 4 years. I don't want to say hung around because he competed at a high level, right?
Oh, yeah.
But for 4 years, that was his dream. That was his goal. That was his mission. And now that still comes to life. Mm-hmm. So good opportunity for there. If you're following curling, though, the mixed doubles competition with Brett Gallant and his wife, Jocelyn Peterman, they fell today to the U.S. 7-6. So their record is now 3-1. They picked up a pair of wins yesterday, but sitting at 3-1, they're off for the rest of the day. We'll play Great Britain tomorrow. Great Britain entered the day 3-0. So we will be following that closely as, of course, we were hoping that the women's hockey event would get started for Team Canada. That was not the case due to the Finnish team being sick with... You got to be careful which virus you say. Norovirus. Not coronavirus, as some have said. Norovirus. 2 different things, just so you're aware. But hopefully Team Canada will get on the ice very soon for the women at the Olympics. But the NHL, Colson, is now on a break until February the 25th. So the Olympic break is on. There's going to be a lot of NHL players on beaches, so on and so forth. Before going on their Olympic break, and I'm going to pitch this on the Prairie Land Rentals text line at 306-936-6262. Again, tell a friend the phone number because you're going to want to get in on this. 306-936-6262. Prairie Land Rentals. Whenever you need to get the job done, they'll help rent it for you, and you deal with the owner at 600 Albert Street. But Leon Draisaitl kind of went off on a bit of a tangent after the Oilers lost their third in a row to the Calgary Flames the other night.
Is that what we're calling it? A tangent?
Well, he picked apart the organization from top to bottom, literally.
What's the difference between you and Jakubec?
I don't know. We've just given up too many goals. I don't know. Just can't defend. Penalty kill is not great. But there's many things that are part of it. It's just not good enough right now.
Tristan just sat here and said that he's got to be better. He's got to keep more pucks out of the net, give you guys a chance to win. I guess, what are your thoughts on that?
It goes hand in hand. Like we got to defend better. We got to make it easier on him, and then I'm sure he can be a little bit better too. It's a two-way street, but it starts with us in front of him, and then the game becomes a little bit easier for him. But I think there's saves that our goalies need to make at some point.
So this is a really veteran team that's played a lot of important hockey. You're 58 games or whatever you're into this season, and you're still trying to find your defensive game. Can you, have we hit some critical mass here, do you think, coming into the spring?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, we're, just not consistent enough, and this league's too hard, to just like lollygag through games and try to get winning streaks going. And you need everybody. It starts with coaches, like everybody. Like you're never going to win if you have 4 or 5 guys going, and it starts at the top. We can be better. Our leaders can be better, and we'll take the break and regroup.
Do you think that stems from
Leon Draisaitl, did he just call out his coaches?
That's what it sounds like to me.
Did he call out his teammates?
Also sounds like that, yeah.
Did he just call out the management of the Edmonton Oilers?
Them too, yeah, they were in there.
Now, I love the fact that he used lollygag
Yes.
in an interview. That's pretty good.
Great term. Isn't used enough.
But the question is, have you heard the old adage, addition by subtraction? Sometimes you can make yourself better by subtracting something that's going on. Now, let's face it. Leon Draisaitl, would you say top 5 hockey player in the world?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
We can go top 5.
Top 5 hockey player in the world. But sometimes he's a bit of a negative Nelly.
It's the German in him, isn't it?
Well, it could be. But here's the speculation. You've just called out basically your bosses, right? The rest of your teammates.
And your coworkers, yeah. Bosses, coworkers.
Sometimes you can't go back down that road. You can't reverse it. So on the Prairie Land Rentals text line, do you think that the Edmonton Oilers should consider moving Leon Draisaitl? Think of the haul you're getting. Now, I'll be the first one to admit, right, that a team that's going to take on Leon Draisaitl isn't probably going to have a lot of players off their current roster that they're going to give up in order to make the Edmonton Oilers better this season. Because the Oilers need defense and goaltending. Mm-hmm. But you could potentially get something, and maybe you can. There's going to be teams that are going to offer up all kinds of draft picks and everything else. And if you're the Edmonton Oilers, so for example, the Vancouver Canucks need to find somebody to do something. So maybe they give up a whole whale of picks to get Leon Draisaitl come in. I don't think the Canucks would do that, but there's other teams. But then you flip those picks into other assets that you need for the win now, which they have with Connor McDavid on the limited contract extension, right?
Yeah. The main thing with Connor McDavid is I'll say he's no Tua Tagovailoa. His word carries a bit more weight when he's calling his teammates out.
Yeah, true.
Because we saw how well that went for Tua this season.
That did not go well, right?
Exactly. Like, Draisaitl's a vet, been here a while.
Yeah.
Got that experience. Again, been McDavid's right-hand man for how many years now? So he's number 2 player on his team. If he's saying, guys, I'm giving it my all, can you give me a bit more? I think that goes well. Now, if he's just coming out and saying, y'all aren't good enough, something along those lines, then it's going to be different. So I think it depends how he's saying it to his teammates and
to the
coaches. Well, that's a different conversation.
Yeah. I'm just saying, would you ever entertain the offer? Okay, so let's move this guy who's clearly frustrated, upset about life and times. Again, he's got a whale of a contract that would have to be eaten up. Mm-hmm. Would you ever consider it? Would you be able to make your team better by moving Leon Draisaitl?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let you get to that on the text line. We are going to be going to San Francisco in a moment. 2 more quick details that you should know before we move on in our day. If you've been following the Gavin McKenna saga and, of course, being charged after basically punching a guy in the face, he was relieved. I guess stayed is the term with the felony charge, but the other minor charges still stick. So it's not a great situation or look, but still ongoing.
The felony charge was withdrawn.
That's what it is?
Official terminology. The prosecutors determined that McKenna did not act with the intent to cause serious bodily harm, nor did he recklessly act with an extreme indifference to the value of human life. Good to hear that.
Yeah, that's true. Isn't it amazing how fast the wheels of justice turn south of the border? Just throwing that out there. Sorry, I shouldn't have probably.
I think there's some financial incentives that are helping.
That could be very true.
But that's just my own personal opinion.
If we are going to be sued by the Olympics right holder, I probably should brush up on my law, but
yeah.
An interesting one.
Yeah, so he is still facing the 3 lesser charges, a misdemeanor for simple assault and summary offenses for disorderly conduct and harassment.
All right. So that's the latest on Gavin McKenna. Last one for you. Today is the 18th anniversary. Oh, boy. 18 years ago, the Saskatchewan Roughriders named a new head coach. They promoted from within. They named Ken Miller, the head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders on this day, promoting him from the offensive coordinator role, which, of course, held under Kent Austin 18 years ago today. Where does Ken Miller, maybe this is also for that Prairieland Rental text line, where does Ken Miller rank on the list of all-time head coaches in Roughriders history?
Ooh.
I know, isn't that tough?
Like, okay. Here's the thing. I would have been 10 years old when that happened. So, like, I am a different fan than a lot of other our listeners. But to me, Ken Miller, he is easily top 3 just of the coaches that I have known. And you could argue he's number 1 because we go through 2 devastating Grey Cup losses. And he essentially convinces an entire fan base and team in a province that, hey, it's okay. We'll be back.
Oh, true,
we got
right?
this. Right? It's one thing to have success and to go win. It's another thing to have a crushing defeat and turn around and go, no, it's okay. We'll be fine. Right? So that's my thoughts. Like, again, I'm young. I know I wasn't around when, like, Eagle Keys and these guys, I'm pretty sure Eagle Keys was a GM, or was he head coach?
Coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't around for those guys. So there's a lot of texters who can weigh in to their excellence. I know we also, didn't Don Matthews coach the Riders?
Don Matthews coached the Riders.
That's a pretty legendary one there, right? But just from my last 30 years of the Rough Riders, really last 20 years of the Rough Riders, Ken Miller feels like very easily top 3, if not number 1.
Now, I would suggest that we should exclude from the conversation Coach Mace. Not because he's not deserving of the title, but because he's still in the role, right? You have to have had someone that was in the role. That's
like if we asked Commissioner Stu Johnson who his favorite quarterbacks were, and he said Bo Levi Mitchell, and you're like, hey, wait a second.
Yeah. So, the longest-serving coach in Saskatchewan Roughrider history, you know who that is?
Did I say his name already?
No, he did not.
Dang. Then I don't know.
Danny Barrett.
Okay.
So would Danny Barrett get consideration for being the longest tenured coach? He didn't get the team to where they wanted to be.
No, but he and Shivers were relieved of duty in 2006, weren't they?
Yep.
Yeah. So they get a lot of brownie points, I would say.
Yeah. Construction points, right?
Yeah.
So weigh in on that. Again, you can join us on the YouTube chat. That's always going at sportscage.com. Of course, you can text in on that Prairieland Prairie Land Rentals text line. Easy for me to say on a Friday at 306-936.
I didn't know they did dental work.
No, not anymore. No more
okay.
crowns.
Okay.
306-936-6262. Let us know what it's all about. We do have to check in at Morrow's Marine. That is where Gloria is standing by. And standing by as well is Farhan Lalji. Yes, he joins us now on the line from San Francisco.
It's time to get the inside story. TSN's Farhan Lalji on SportsCage is brought to you by the Cooperators. Time to get financially fit? Cooperators can build a plan that works for you. Cooperators, investing in your future together.
Farhan Lalji on a Friday. I don't think there's any better words coming out of my mouth. Good day, sir. How are things?
Dave, I am good. You know, Super Bowl for me, it's like 4 days of hard work, 2 days of fun, and then 1 day of hard work. And we're now into the 2 days of fun starting today because all the availabilities are over, which was in this particular Super Bowl even more awkward because all the availabilities and practices and everything were down in the San Jose area, and we're staying in San Francisco, and you know all the league activities and everything else was up here, and the commute between the two has been an absolute nightmare. So that ended yesterday. You know, we've worked ahead, so we filed everything for the weekend. So like we get to enjoy the next 2 days and then get ready for the game. So I'm looking forward to the FanDuel party tonight and a few other things.
Now, I had heard, again, from some colleagues that was the instance that you were staying in San Francisco, heading to San Jose, and we were discussing back and forth, and the question that arose was, are the teams making that commute daily, or are they staying in San Jose?
No, they're staying in San Jose. So the Patriots are at Stanford, which is kind of in between in Palo Alto, and the Seahawks are at they're practicing at San Jose State. Their hotel is connected to the San Jose Convention Center, and the Patriots is down in the San Jose area as well. So it's just, you know, if I had a do-over, we would have just, our hotels, we would have stayed in San Jose for the first 3 nights, and it just would have been a lot more convenient, but it worked out this way. And look, I'm not here to complain. Super Bowl's awesome. It's great to be a part of. So here we are.
Well, I know you've had the opportunity to be there and living vicariously through you. What has this year's Super Bowl experience been like compared to past years? When you look at the team's approaches, when you look at the way that the teams got there, to the demeanor, to the host, how has this one stacked up?
Well, from a host perspective, like I said, I think there's been an awkwardness to it just because of how spread out the whole thing is, right? But, you know, like, it is what it is. In terms of how the teams are, it's different in the standpoint that generally there's not a ton of news on Super Bowl week, right? That, you know, the haze in the barn, teams kind of do everything early and then they kind of come and fine tune. Both of these teams have actually made an effort to do some of their game plan installs this week. They didn't want to do it all last week. They wanted to continue to build, and they wanted to keep their players engaged by adding things this week, so they didn't do it all before. There has been some injury news, right, which we didn't normally have, like Sam Darnold, for example. Yesterday, that was the first day he was a full participant in practice for the last 3 weeks, so you really know where his oblique injury is. It's in a pretty good place. Nick Imanwari got injured, right, mildly, but, you know, kind of had everybody on pins and needles for about 24 hours. He didn't practice. I think he is taking part in the walkthrough today, in today's practice in a limited manner. Drake May has improved as the week gone, so there's been a little bit of that, but you've got two teams with very little Super Bowl experience, right? I mean, when you look at the Patriots, the biggest thing they've got is on the coaching staff, right? Mike Vrabel won 3 of these with the Patriots. Josh McDaniels, I think, coached in 9 of the 10 with the Patriots, right? Yep. So they certainly know what they're doing. And for the Seahawks, you've got Cooper Kupp, who's been a Super Bowl MVP. You've got Ernest Jones, the linebacker, who started as a freshman in L.A. when they won theirs as well a few years ago. But, you know, outside of that, you know, like you've got, I think there's 3 players there that have played in 11 playoff games, including Kupp. But, you know, it's just a bunch of guys that don't have a ton of experience. Sam Darnold was there as a backup a couple of years ago with the Niners. You know, and to be quite honest, this isn't a Super Bowl that has a superstar, right? Like, there's no one at the level of a Patrick Mahomes. I don't know that there's anyone that's the level of a Jalen Hurts, right? So, you know, that part of it is interesting too. I mean, I do think in terms of exceptional play, the Seahawks unit defensively is that level, but, you know, they don't have Richard Sherman, you know, like, they're not star-worthy that way. They don't have Myles Garrett. They, you know, I remember when The Broncos won the last time it was here, and Peyton was playing barely with one arm tied on. They still had Von Miller, who was at star level at that point. So the game's kind of missing that, but there's still plenty of other storylines.
If folks haven't been following you all the way along this NFL season, go to sportscage.com. You'll find the podcast. But you have been talking about the Seattle Seahawks and their defense for an awful long time, and I think have given them due before anyone else really stood up and said, okay, yeah, this is for real. Is this game come down to Seattle's defense and whether or not the New England Patriots can find a way to beat them?
Yeah, okay, so I don't think the New England Patriots can beat them in any way but this, in terms of that matchup that you're talking about. What does Drake May do with his legs on third down, right? Like if I'm the Seahawks, they have an ability to stop the run better than anybody else because they can do it with four, and it allows you to create a number of different looks on the back end. You know, they spend more time in nickel and dime coverages than any other players or any other teams, and that's because you've got a Nicky Minori who can do so many different things, right? Ernest Jones is another guy that can line up in a lot of different places, so they don't have to pressure, and that gives them flexibility so they can stop the run. I think the matchup between the Patriots secondary, the Seahawks secondary and the Patriots receivers isn't close. But Drake May has done serious damage with his legs, extending drives and taking games over, which you just wouldn't think when you look at Drake May as a player. And so Seattle better pay due attention in third down, keep a spy on him. You know, the linebackers can't escape early. They've got to be able to rally and make tackles on him. He's not going to beat anybody, but if you give him space, he's going to take it and win. So that's where the game's going to get decided in terms of that matchup. You know, and on the other side, people are saying to me that, well, you know, Sam Darnold's got to have a really bad game and turn the ball over a bunch and give the Patriots a short field. Yes, I think that's their only path to win that matchup, but I just don't think Sam Darnold is that player anymore, right? And he's not going to press, and the Seahawks are going to continuously try to run the ball, even if they're struggling at it, right? It's just to kind of avoid some of those moments and just create play action opportunities. So, you know, for me, it's that one thing I'm going to continuously look at. What happens with Drake May on third down? Other than that, I don't see a huge path to any kind of matchup where it's a clear Patriots advantage.
Farhan Lalji from TSN joining us as we get set for Super Bowl 60. Of course, the Seattle Seahawks taking on the New England Patriots. And in conversations and opportunities that I've had to eavesdrop on you, sorry I do that, the way that you talk about quarterbacks, and obviously you've got the tie-in with your son, but the knowledge that you've got from your coaching experience as well when it comes to quarterbacks, you look at the two that we've got coming up on Sunday. Are there two more? I guess they've got something to prove, I would submit. And when you analyze the way that they have to go about proving that, what has to happen and what is working well for those two?
Well, like, look, I don't know that Drake May has to prove anything. And the reason for that is it's year two. Right? Like the fact that he's in the Super Bowl in year two, took over the starting job last year as a rookie, had, you know, limited success, right? Because they didn't have the coaching change yet, but he himself played fine. And for him to be in this situation in year two, I don't think there's anything to prove for him. Now, you can certainly make the case that for them offensively or for the Patriots as a team, everybody's talking about their soft schedule, right? The softest schedule of a Super Bowl finalist since 2000 and one of the 10 softest since 1970. So collectively, there's something to prove there. You can make the case that Darnold has something to prove, and if he can have success this weekend, it's the ultimate redemption. I think he's proven a ton in the last 2 years, right? People are going to point to the final two games of last year. They're going to point to the 4-interception game that he had earlier this year against the Rams, but he's overcome all of that. He's played the game in the last years at such a high level, and he really has, like, I believe him when he says that he doesn't care about all of it. He just wants to win for his team. That when the Vikings are ready to move on, the Seahawks were there and took him. And this team has rallied around him so much. They've shown how much they've got his back, how much they're buying into him. He is truly right now in a place that I just want to win. I just want to do it for this group of guys. And I'm telling you, like, having covered this game for a long time, having covered the Seahawks for a long time, it's been a long time since I've seen a team this connected. And it starts with Sam Darnold and how everything has worked around him. So I don't think he's making this about, I need something to prove, and it's a redemption moment for me. He's at a place in time in his life where he just wants to win. These opportunities are fleeting.
Okay, we'll come back to that in just a moment. The last question before that regarding the National Football League. Did they get it right? Did the voters do it right when it came to the MVP, naming Matthew Stafford this year's MVP?
I think so. Yeah, I think they played the game offensively at such a high level. You had the number one offense in the league. You know the schedule. We've talked about it because, on one side may had it a little easier, but on the other side, you look at Stafford to have to navigate what he did in the NFC West, right? Which is a historically strong division with 3 12-win teams. And nobody outside of the Tampa Bay Bucks, when Seattle was missing 4 starters on the defensive side of the ball, nobody moved the ball against the number 1 ranked defense in Seattle other than the Rams. Like, the Rams toyed with them in 2 of the 3 games. So that he could do that and operate at that level, I think they absolutely got it right with the MVP.
I'm not going to put you on the spot for a prediction, but I will ask.
I'll give you one.
Okay, go ahead. I was going to say, tell me what has to go right for both teams to win, and then tell me who wins.
Well, look, as I mentioned before, I just think Seattle can't let Drake May take over the game on 3rd down.
Yeah.
That's the only matchup that matters here. I think barring that, Seattle's got to make a lot of mistakes for the Patriots to win this game, whether it's penalties or, what have you. But, this is a team that doesn't necessarily do a lot of that. They win games on the margins. Mike McDonald talks about chasing edges, and they do that in areas like special teams. So it's just that one matchup. You keep an eye on that, and that's going to make the determination. And I just don't think Seattle beats themselves in any other ways. So with that in mind, I think Seattle's going to win by 2 scores. I've got them winning by 9, and 9 to 10, somewhere in that range. They'll win, they'll cover. It's not going to be a blowout, but I do think they're going to win this football game because they're just a better team.
Farhan Lalji from TSN is joining us. And Farhan, switching gears to the Canadian Football League, the free agency window has been open for 6 days or so. Is this process working, and did anything catch you off guard?
You're talking about the tampering window process? No,
yeah.
It's not working, if that's what you're talking about. It's kind of silly. But truthfully, it's no different than it is in any other league, right? You look at the NFL, you look at the National Hockey League, and generally when their communication windows open, deals get released or leaked, right? Whatever it happens to be. Everybody wants to be at the front of the line. And no matter what you do, they began the communication window earlier, left it open longer. No matter what you do, people are going to tamper ahead of it. They just are. Yeah. So I don't know that there's even a need for a communications window at this point, because it's not working the way the league had designed. You've got to put your offers in writing, and you've got to submit it to the league, and then you take it back, and none of that stuff has worked. So I think teams work off more than anything the signing bonus and roster bonus deadlines, which happen generally around February 1st. So have your free agency after that. Let teams make decisions. If they're not going to sign guys, you can release them early, and then you can sign those players, and have your free agency day a couple of days after those roster bonuses are due, and get on with it. But I don't see that part of it working. But, the teams that needed to get better got better. I think Saskatchewan did really well in the days leading up to free agency by just getting so much done and not losing a ton of guys. Yes, they lost some important pieces on defense. A.J. Allen turned into a ratio guy. You lose a guy like C.J. Rivas, which is really their chess piece that they can move around and do a lot of things. And Malik Carney's an impact player, but they kept all the offensive pieces. They got Mike Rose done late. They got A.J. Ouellette done late. They added James Letcher late, who can really help them in the return game and give them a depth piece at receiver. James Vaughters, when he eventually comes on board, can be a rotational guy for them. I don't think he's an impact player anymore, but he's useful. So I think Saskatchewan did well. But you look at the Bombers, your rival, they knew, okay, we can't keep doing it the way we've done it in the past. Yeah. We're going to have to meaningfully improve this roster, because what's their core, right? Their core is Zach Caleros. It's Brady Oliveira, and it is, a couple of offensive linemen, and it's Willie Jefferson. And they wanted to maximize that and extend that. So they had to go out and get veteran players, right? So for them to go out there and get Tim White and get Jarrell Broxton and make that kind of improvement. And there's one other person they added that's a key guy that is eluded me off the top of my head. But, they added
Tommy
important
Neal,
pieces. Yeah. No, not Tommy Neal, who I do think will start for them, but on the defensive side, didn't they add a defensive lineman? Anyway, I'm totally
It'll
brain
jump to
cramping
me,
it. Yeah, but they've made some meaningful additions there because they knew that Saskatchewan's not going to take a step back here, and we can't have we want to be in a Grey Cup window constantly while Zach is still here. We have to win now. We don't like the feeling from last year, so they got better. I think Edmonton continued to be aggressive, and they got better. Will it be enough? They were a little more targeted this time, whereas 2 years ago it was all volume, and Ottawa this time around was volume, and they needed that. And Ryan Dinwiddie wanted to put his fingerprints on the roster, and I think he was able to do that. So I think they're significantly better. I'd be shocked, barring a real wave of injuries, that not only does Ottawa get into the playoffs next year, but they'll have a home playoff game.
Wow. Jake Ceresna. I told you it would come. It was Colson that prompted
There you go. Yeah, and we'll see what he's got left after last year, right? Because last year was tough for him, even before the injury. And I know he's going to be healthy going into camp, but we'll see how much of a difference he can make for them.
I like to call this almost the rapid round because when I was talking with my fellow coaches at hockey the other night and told them you were coming on with me on Friday, they had a bunch of questions they wanted to ask. So I'll try to get through.
Let's go.
Okay. Has Drew Brown's leash been lengthened or shortened with Jake Maier going to Ottawa?
It's a good question. I think you can only say shortened, right? Because he's going to have one of the most successful play callers in Ryan Dinwiddie there is. There's quarterback developers and there's play callers, and Ryan Dinwiddie is a really, really good play caller. And I think he does both things well. And so he's got a reasonable backup. Now, I think with Jake, everyone says, look, high floor, low ceiling, right? Mm-hmm. But the fact is, Ryan Dinwiddie got a lot out of a similar player, Nick Arbuckle, in terms of high floor, low ceiling, right? So he's a guy that's going to be able to think, I can get a lot done here. Now, I think Drew Brown is fine when he's healthy. Is he an elite quarterback? I don't know, because we just haven't seen a long enough body of work. We've seen him have a couple of 400-yard games, but then we've seen him miss half a season when you add it all up. So the leash for him is going to be revolving around injuries. He's got to stay healthy, because if he's out and Jake does really well, all bets are off.
Wynton McManus, a surprise that he isn't a Toronto Argonaut anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, he wanted to get paid, right? And Toronto, I think they've got some other areas of concern they needed to address. Wynton McManus still has a lot of football left. I think he can still continue to play it at a really, really high level. So Hamilton got better, especially when you factor in that, with the A.J. Allen piece and things like that, that linebacking core looks a whole lot different, right?
Edmonton, if you remove, now this is an interesting one.
I know AJ is going to Ottawa, but with Devin Veresek gone, I know that Hamilton's linebacking core, they needed to kind of make an improvement there, right? And I think that allows them to get better. Sorry.
No, that's good. This is a tough question to answer because it's a tough question to ask. If you take away the business side of it and the contractual obligations for Trey Ford, did the Edmonton Elks give up on him too soon if you remove the business side?
No. And this is not a shot at Trey Ford, right? I think he's been through a few different regimes there. The Trey Ford side will probably say, I had no continuity at offensive coordinator, didn't necessarily have a true quarterback developer. But last year, Jordan McSimic is generally pretty well regarded as a play caller. So there were other things at play, in terms of commitment and things like that. So they needed to move on, and quite frankly, Trey needed to move on. So I think he's in a really good position with a guy like Scott Milanovic, who's a very good quarterback developer. He's got a lot out of Bo Levi Mitchell, and people thought his career was over. And I think Bo's also going to take him under his wing. There's not going to be a hurry there, barring injury, for Trey to get involved too early. So this is the best case for him to resurrect his career. So Edmonton did the right thing by moving on and getting another guy in the building that they really like in Trey Powell, who I think will be the quarterback of the future there. But I think that in Trey's case, this is good for both sides, both he and the Elks.
Lastly for you, Farhan Lalji, is Nathan Rourke. How high is his ceiling going to be? And this one was posed to me first, and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't know. Like, he's already the MOP, but there seems like there's so much more room for growth. What can he do to continue to grow his game?
I don't know what he can continue to do because he does everything well, but I think because he's still young, there's still more to get, right? Like, can he add more velocity? Can he add more speed? Can he add more, you can always improve in this game. There's a decision-making element to Nathan where there's some times where he puts the ball at risk, but I've always said that in his case, if you don't allow him that freedom, you're not going to get the greatness. And the one thing with Nathan, truly that people, I don't know how much they value it. I think the league does. I'm not sure how much fans do. He makes everyone around him so much better. And people are talking to me about Jarrell Broxton, losing him and what that does, because everybody needs linemen, but he can make some ordinary linemen look really, really good because of how quick he processes and his ability to use his legs and extend. So people are going to come up with different strategies. He's seen a lot. He's continued to excel. And, I just think that's good. He'll keep growing and keep doing that, but he is really, really good.
Lastly, I'm trying to distribute my calories appropriately on Sunday. Should I just go wings? Do I go wings and pizza? Do I just go pizza? It's all from Western Pizza. There's no wrong choice.
I'm a wings guy. I think Western Pizza's got good pizza, although whenever I'm in Regina, they never send it to the studio. I'll blame Barney for that. I'm such a wings guy. Like, I'm a wings and nachos guy for Super Bowl when I'm not there, for a big game when I'm not there. So go heavy wings.
You're doing a great job covering it down there and bringing the stories to life here in Canada through TSN and your work. Farhan, appreciate your time. Enjoy Super Bowl 60, and thanks for doing this.
Dave, always a pleasure, buddy.
From Super Bowl 60, Farhan Lalji and TSN. I need to apologize to Morrow's Marine and Gloria. We're going to head that way, get to your sports ticker and more. This is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. Dave Thomas, Colson Schultz sitting in on a Friday afternoon for Barney Shankruk. Another mild day today. And it sounds like the temperature is going to stay above zero right into next week. So maybe the ice will come off the lake sooner than we think, Gloria. We'll head back to Gloria at the boat show in Morrow's Marine in just a few moments' time. We've got reaction coming in, and I knew that we would. As soon as we pondered aloud whether or not the Edmonton Oilers should should move Leon Draisaitl after he called out the entire organization after their loss to Calgary earlier this week. We've got on the text line. Well, I got lots of messages on the text line at 306-936-6262. First, some good news. Wayne, glad to hear that the Riders Grey Cup Tour starts in Humboldt. Indeed, it does. Tomorrow, you can see all of the dates on our website at sportscage.com for when it is coming near you. It'll be in Nipawin at some point this weekend as well. So, again, sportscage.com for that. Roscoe sending you props, Colson, from Kindersley. Doing a bang-up job backing me up. I'd say you're kind of the lead singer in this group, though. I'm more the bass player, the guy that sits in the background and doesn't get the girls.
The only problem with that is I actually play bass. So
do you really?
Yeah. So
I play drums. Well. We could have a pretty good band.
Got the bass and the rhythm. That's all you need, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of people saying that I don't have rhythm. Different story for a different day. We've got Jackson on the text line. You can never get rid of Draisaitl, ever. Fair enough. I understand that. We also have Carter weighing in on our discussion regarding today being the 18th anniversary of Ken Miller being named the head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, promoted from offensive coordinator after Kent Austin left for Ole Miss. And Carter, I don't know. I think that he said Corey Chamberlain won a Grey Cup in 2013.
Mm-hmm. And for that stretch, he was... I don't remember if he was like the most winningest Rough Rider coach.
Well, that's a good question. Does that automatically make you the best?
I'm not saying automatically. I'm saying that would be a factor. But I think up until after the 2013 season, he was for a bit.
But there's different eras. There's different times. I'm just saying, right? Like, again, weigh in. Who's the best Riders head coach of all time, or do you think the Oilers should consider moving Leon Draisaitl? 306-936-6262, the Prairie Land Rentals text line. I thought you were ready to chime in. You looked like you had that little glimmer in your eye of an idea.
I'm trying to do math.
You're doing math?
Yeah, well, because I have his career in, for Corey Chamberlain, his career coaching wise in the CFL, he had a .407 winning percentage.
Okay, so less than 500.
Correct. That includes the 4-14 season in Toronto in 2019. So that's where I'm like, I got to get rid of that.
Yeah.
But also, we can't forget in 2015 they started 0-9, and then that's when he got fired, and Brendan Taman got relieved of duty as well. So that's where I'm saying,
yes,
I got to do some math to figure out.
Yeah. Well, Don Matthews might be in there a little bit. Do you think? Again, great winning coach as winning percentage as a CFL coach. Had what's the right way to word this? Had a time in Saskatchewan. He came in and made some sweeping changes.
Coaching record.
It reminded me of Chris Jones a little bit too, though, right? Because Jones came in and made sweeping changes.
So joined the Riders in 91 mid-season. Coached for his coaching here in 91. He was 5-6. In 92, he was 9-9. In 93, he was 11-7.
Yeah. And then left for
Baltimore.
Baltimore when the expansion occurred south of the border, right?
Yeah. And 94 lost in the Grey Cup, and then 95 was his first of 3 straight Grey Cup wins with Baltimore, then Toronto back to back.
All right. Well, class, feel free to discuss amongst yourself, 306-936-6262. And I tell you, Farhan Lalji's on it, man. He is on it. Jake Seresna has just signed with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Interesting note is that from Derek Taylor, of course, the voice of the Blue Bombers, the Bombers acquired his rights from the Elks ahead of Tuesday's opening of free agency.
Oh.
So
they
could
trade?
sign him. Well, they would have had to do something.
Yeah.
So probably a late round pick or something, I would assume.
They ask nicely.
Yeah, pretty please, can we talk to your guy that you don't want?
You can throw in a cherry on top, maybe some sprinkles,
Well, what's interesting is that it's a 2-year deal too, right? There's more and more of those that are being signed, and he's 32, turns 33 this year. So again, age is just a number, right?
Yeah.
But just saying.
Yeah. Don Matthews' record with the Riders was 25-22 for .532.
Okay, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad. His total CFL career, he was a .633, 231 wins, 133 losses. That 0-8 with Toronto in 2008 really did not help.
No,
that whole thing.
No, yeah.
That was just thrown on in the end.
But coaches are hired to be fired, right?
That's what I'm told.
That's what I've been led to believe anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to take another break, right? We do have to get to our sports ticker. We'll do that. Coming up after 4 o'clock, we're headed to the Brandt Center. Brad Herauf, the head coach of the Regina Pats, is going to join us. We'll get to our clutch performer and more coming up. So don't move, don't stay, don't go away. Hang tight. We'll be back in more in just a moment. Of course, we're streaming at sportscage.com, and you can hear us on the radio at 620 CKRM. Proud to celebrate 100 years. All right, here we go. CFL news today. Jake Seresna signed a 2-year contract extension, or I guess a 2-year contract period with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers today. Of course, the Bombers acquired him from the Elks ahead of Tuesday's opening of free agency. Other news, 5 WHL Saskatchewan teams in action tonight, including the Blades and the Regina Pats at Brandt Center. Puck hits the ice at 7. You can hear the game starting at 6:30 here on 620 CKRM. Elsewhere, Lethbridge travels to Prince Albert. Swift Current home to Moose Jaw. Medicine Hat. Moose Jaw is in Edmonton tonight. SJHL full slate of games. Estevan at Yorkton. Warman welcomes Battlefords. Larange takes on Nipawin. Melfort and Kindersley will square off tonight. The Melville Millionaires are in Humboldt, while the Flin Flon Bombers host the Weyburn Red Wings. Saskatchewan Junior Female Hockey League tonight. The Western Prairie Clippers and Kindersley hosting the Regina Wild. In the Prairie Junior Hockey League, Prince Albert plays the Regina Silver Foxes at 7:45, while the Regina Capitals are in Moosomin tonight. Under 18 AAA boys action. Moose Jaw takes on Estevan. Saskatoon plays the Blazers. The Milan Cortina Olympic Games, of course, course, they get underway. They have the opening ceremony ongoing as we speak. I can't tell you what's happening because then I'd get sued. However, mixed doubles curling was on the ice. Team Canada dropping a 7-5 decision to the U.S. Now their record is 3-1. They'll take on Great Britain tomorrow. And Gavin McKenna, the felony charge has been dropped. The rest remain. He made a court appearance earlier today. And that is your SportsCage Sports Ticker on a busy Friday for Alliance Group of Companies. Coming up, we're heading to Brant Center. Going to talk with Regina Pat's head coach Brad Herauf. He will join us after 4 o'clock. Plus, we've got Sheldon Kennedy, NHL Hall of Famer, to join us today, and AJ Jakubec, who is the play-by-play voice of the Ottawa Rough Riders.
Sheldon Kennedy's actually Canada Sports Hall of Fame. That's my bad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I knew that.
Yeah. I fed you the wrong information initially, so that's my bad.
We're a team, man. We're a team. We're a team. So, yes, Sheldon Kennedy is coming up, as is AJ Jakubec. And no, I know it's not the Ottawa Rough Riders, but they signed enough of the Riders to make them that name right now. We will discuss that and more coming up for you here on the Sports Cage on a Friday. Heading to Gloria next. This is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and at 620 CKRM. Dave Thomas, Colson Schultz, and a cast of thousands joining us on the Sports Cage on a Friday. Barney's away, Tegan's off. We're just going to kick back and talk sports for the next couple of hours. Super Bowl Sunday is fast approaching. We've got details on that. Of course, if you missed it, Farhan Lalji was in San Francisco, joined us earlier. You can catch, of course, the podcast at sportscage.com. Also coming up, we're going to speak with a legend in his own right. Of course, Sheldon Kennedy. He was up in Saskatoon last weekend. We'll see if he's recovered from that charity hockey game. I understand it's been a while since he had been on skates. We'll talk to him and head out to Ottawa to see if they're happy with stealing all the Rough Rider players. And that's all just around the corner. It is the Sports Cage on a Friday, brought to you by Nelson Homes. The text line is blowing up, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, a special guest from Pump Jacks Cathedral, fellow Weybournite. Shout out to Weyburn. Kevin Smith is here. Hey, man, are you guys ready for Super Bowl over at Pump Jacks?
We are all ready to go here on Sunday. Should be a great time. Looks like should be a good matchup. Hopefully it's a good matchup. But Seattle and New England should give us a good game.
Who you got, or who do you want? Are they the same thing?
Well, my team, unfortunately, is not in the final two. But I think Seattle's defense is going to get it done.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a common theory.
Yeah.
I think you're right. It'll be a close game, though. You're right,
yeah.
Right? So if I'm coming down to Pump Jacks on Sunday, first of all, if I want to go, I should probably call, right?
It's probably not a bad idea to give us a call ahead before time, just because we do have ample seating. But that seating is starting to fill up. But by all means, give us a shout, and we'll get a spot booked for you. All TVs that we have a private room as well, the boardroom, and we have like 13 TVs. The audio will be gone. So everything's going to be fantastic.
It's kind of like a game day atmosphere the
really
last time I was in. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Okay, so what are my go-to snacks? Because you've got some great specials.
Well, we have some great specials. We have, when it comes to food, we have 25% off all of our appetizers, and we have a massive list of appetizers.
Yes.
So there's a wide variety for anybody, whether it's nachos, which is a great Super Bowl or football, just in general, snack for a table of 3 or 4. The gentleman enjoyed the chicken tenders and Chris Curran's crispy ribs yesterday.
I heard about that.
So we also have a wide pizza menu, which hopefully you guys get a snack on here in a bit as well.
Yeah, that's going to be bad, mouthful, but we can do that. We've proven that we're up to that challenge. Yes. And you've got drink specials and giveaways throughout, right?
We do have giveaways. We have hats, we have jerseys, we have a mini fridge, we have a cooler, we have various giveaways throughout the day. Of course, the bigger draws will be made later in the day as the game progresses on.
Now, I quite often like to tell my wife that I need to make sure that I'm prepared for the game, so I like to do the pregame. What time do you open on Sunday?
On Sunday, actually, we are open for brunch at 9:30 in the morning. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've never had brunch at Pump Jack Cathedrals. What should I expect?
Well, we have our traditional bacon and eggs, sausage and eggs, steak not steak sandwich, but our steak and eggs, pancakes for the kids. So, yeah.
Okay, well, Kevin Smith from Pump Jacks Cathedral is here. We got to put you to work because I can smell the pizza on the other side of the board. But we've been asking questions. So first of all, we've asked our great listeners at 306-936-6262 to text in with Leon Draisaitl going off on his teammates. I don't know if you heard this the other night.
I did hear the story. I caught a little bit of it, yes, when he was going off his coaches and
management, teammates.
Management, yep.
Would you ever think of moving Leon Draisaitl if you could get some big pieces back?
Well, that is a big contract hit for a number of teams, and I will say that I would think that a team that is going to accept him, or if the trade does deal, will probably have to eat a fair amount, or sorry, Edmonton might have to eat a fair amount of that money.
True.
But if the pieces and draft picks are there, that could be a potential move, and I don't know. It's a tough decision to make.
I'm with you. And majority, I think there's only been one vote for. So you're the second vote for.
I'm also a Calgary Flame fan.
Fair enough.
So
fair enough. Okay, so you are the second vote for Leon Draisaitl moving, and now I see the metrics behind that.
Yeah.
All-time Riders coaches. 18 years ago today, Ken Miller was hired or promoted to head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Is he the greatest, or who is?
Well, I will say this. The Riders won the Grey Cup literally on my 7th birthday. I would say Jim Gregory.
Okay.
I was November 26, 1989, when robo kicker Dave Ridgway made that kick. It was my 7th birthday, so there's a little soft spot in my heart. But Ken Miller, I've met the man a few times, super nice gentleman. I would put him 1 and 1A.
Okay, there you go. So Gregory and Ken Miller.
Yeah.
And lastly, you and I got our start in Weyburn.
That's correct.
At the radio station down there. You were doing Blue Jays games, right?
I was operating Blue Jays games. I was actually operating your hockey games when you guys were in Flin Flon at the RBC.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Some people have tried to make us forget that Flin Flon trip. Others would say that it had to do with the beverages that we chose. But anyways.
I can't comment. I was on the other side of
True.
things.
Very true. Buck Martinez announced his retirement today at the age of 77. Is he not the voice of Blue Jays that we grew up with?
To me, I will always revert back to Tom Cheek and Jerry Howarth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of TV broadcast, there's no one different than Buck Martinez.
Yeah. It's kind of a sad day.
Yeah,
you know?
it really is. Yeah. But I understand why.
Oh, totally, right? And, Buck Martinez, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He was up at the Saskatoon Sports Celebrity Dinner a couple of years ago. So they put about 1,300 in that room. And he went to every table and shook everybody's hand.
Yeah, and that's just a great gentleman. And it's nice when people are like that. They give back to the community and appreciate the people that enjoy their work.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Pump Jacks Cathedral, the place to be for Super Bowl Sunday. Seahawks taking on the Patriots. You've already picked the Seahawks again. Pick a seat now, though. Call and get it done, right?
Yeah, it would not be a hard time to we have people answer the phone all the time, so just give us a shout beforehand.
Always a great time for a game day, whether it's Super Bowl, Rider game day, whatever the case may be. An NHL night with some friends, you can do it, and that's 13th and Vic, right?
Albert and 13th.
Albert and 13th, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vic and 13th don't collide, do they?
Yeah.
That would be just sending somebody to a back alley somewhere. Way to go, Dave.
Yeah.
Kevin, thanks for coming in, man. Appreciate the pizza, and it's going to be a good time on Sunday.
Always great seeing you there, Dave.
All right. There you go. Pump Jacks Cathedral, the place to be. We need to take a break. The head coach of the Regina Pats, I understand Brad Herauf is standing by. We'll head to Brand Center and talk to him in a moment. This is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and live on 620 CKRM. Welcome back on the Sports Cage. It is a Friday. Dave Thomas in for Barney Shankaruk and Tegan Whitco. Basically, there's no rules today, so I'm breaking everything that I possibly can. We went a little bit long in the first hour, and Gloria was stuck treading water, except she was in a Prince Craft boat. So, Morals Marine, they treated her right. We're going to head back to the boat show coming up in just a little bit. Also going to try to answer a question from Dion. Dion poses it on the Prairie Land Rentals text line. We'll get to that coming up in just a moment. But first, it is game day. This guy is busy. It's time to go to the Brand Center. And head coach of your Regina Pats, Brad Herauf, is joining us. And Brad, boy, I tell you, you've been off since Sunday. Had that big overtime win over the Moose Jaw Warriors. The question begs to be asked, what have you been up to all week?
Yeah, it's these last 2 weeks have been kind of like a college week for us. So we really hit a gauntlet here in the next 7 weeks. So we're playing 3-4 games a week. So we'll enjoy the practice time and the downtime because it'll be crazy till the end of the season now for us.
Well, incredibly, you have played, or at least tied for having played the fewest games in the Western Hockey League this season. It seems like you're either playing 4 games in 5 nights or, like you say, the college schedule where you just play on weekends. How hard is it to keep your routine through that much of a deviance in the schedule?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's, I think every team goes through it. I think it's just mixing up the practices, what you're doing, making sure you're not getting too, doing the same stuff all over and over again. These kids like doing different things, and there's such a premium on skill development now. So, just kind of try to keep doing different things. Obviously, this practice time was important for us for our stretch run here.
Last game you played, Coach, was back on Sunday, a 3-2 overtime victory over the Moose Jaw Warriors, 52 shots on goal. I'm sitting there thinking, are you guys ever going to find the back of the net? What was going through your mind?
Well, we did the same thing the night before with Swift Current, and unfortunately, we came up on losing end. So I think there's a lot of lessons the night before. Just if you're playing good hockey, just believe in the process, stick to the process, and don't get frustrated. And I think that's something we took over even going into the third period. We were down 2-0, but, we very easily could have been up, 4-2, 5-2. But they got a really good goalie. They were playing us really well that night, and I think we just stuck with it and didn't let our frustrations get to us.
Ken Schneider said something very interesting I found during the post-game show on Sunday night after that victory over the Moose Jaw Warriors. It was after Liam Pugh and Maddox Schultz had skated on a line together, and still it's fascinating that neither of the two of them can drive to the rink, but you put them together, and he said that was all your call in putting those two youngsters together and combining them. What did you see, and what gives you confidence that you can put two 15-year-olds out on the ice together at the same time?
Yeah, I don't think it's rocket science by any means. I'm just the lucky one that gets to be around them in the rink all the time and see what they do. Obviously, I've known Maddox because he's a local kid. My son's the same age as him, so I've known him since a young age, and he's always risen to the occasion. He's always kept on getting better and better. This year's a little bit of a unique development year for him, just, with the yo-yo back and forth of the Patsies. And so, for me, it's always about, for both the kids, not just Maddox, but for both of them, it's just about getting experience. And we had them split up in the start of that game, and Liam was really one that really popped off to me. He was playing so well that, I know they play well together, and for us, it's easier to kind of use them together when they're being in and out of our lineup. But just obviously just a feel you have on the bench, what you see with them daily in practice, and getting to know what they're capable of.
Obviously, we know their offensive upside, and you could see that. And you talk about not rocket science putting them together. For me, I would still be very, very leery about perhaps defensive liabilities. Has their game improved that much that you can trust them at both ends of the ice?
Yeah, it's once again, I get to spend the time with them. I know, we do video together, individually with the two of them. So, for me, I'm getting to do video with them, getting to, see what questions they're answering, see what they're seeing on the ice too at the same time, that we're doing video. So for me, they are getting better. They're, right now it's really just about them being thrown in the fire and being given the opportunity to fail. They're given an opportunity to fail. They'll fail once or twice, but then they'll get it, and then they'll never lose it again. So, I think there's that development piece, and, he's got to be aware of, the ability these guys have, and, just where we can give them opportunity and obviously still be successful too.
Regina Pats head coach Brad Herauf joining us here on the Sports Cage this afternoon, taking on the Saskatoon Blades tonight, 7 o'clock at Brandt Center. You mentioned it is a stretch run. There's not a lot of runway left on this season, which remarkably seems to have just gone by so quickly. But you look at it as you sit now, you've got tons of games in hand on the teams that are above and below you, and you're sitting 2 points out of a playoff spot. I know that Ken Schneider talked about urgency in that same post-game show back on the weekend. Is that the right term to use right now?
I think the biggest thing is every game's meaningful. And we haven't been in this spot in the last 2 years just because of the route we decided to go with, just with the rebuild and stuff like that. So to us, it was about playing meaningful games down the stretch here, getting into the playoffs, getting playoff experience, because those things are all real valuable to these kids. Win, lose, or draw, when you get in, but it's just that daily grind and focus that, you really get to learn when you get to play these kind of games all the way through the end of the season. And, for us, just where we are in the standings, every game is going to be a playoff game. So I think it's going to be, valuable learning experience for all of us in the future.
I think it was John Paddock back in the day when there was a young team in Regina, when he said, you know what, it's great having a young team because they just don't know any better. And that brings me to the point of your group perhaps being very, very resilient. I go back, you're on the road in Alberta, you have a game where you can jump into a playoff spot taking on Red Deer. It doesn't go your way, but then the next night you're lights out in Edmonton. Is that true that your team just doesn't know any better?
Yeah, I think sometimes they don't know when they have to be more urgent, and then sometimes, ignorance bliss. I think there's two sides of that for sure. But for us, it's something we take pride in, being resilient, something we take pride in, playing all the way to the end. I think that's something that we try to hammer home as a coaching staff, that, as it is a game but hockey's a privilege, and being in your position, playing for Regina Pats, there's I think a respect that needs to be, given when you are a hockey player, that your job is to perform. Your job is to go out there and give it your all. I really think that, our team, has kind of embodied that a little bit, that, we haven't won, every game, but I think that when teams do beat us, we make them do it the hard way.
Justifiably so. Liam Pugh, Maddox Schultz get a lot of headlines, and again, that's to be expected. But when you look at your roster up and down, I would suggest that, boy, there are some guys that really need to go ahead and, get that much-needed kudos award. For example, I would throw out the name Dace Sturkatch to you. Just, again, getting the limited opportunity that I have to just watch him play, it seems like his compete is through the roof, and it kind of rubs off on guys. Am I fair in that assessment? Because there's a lot of heroes on your team right now.
Yeah, I think, that's one thing that Dace has been, known for his whole life, has been his work ethic. You talk to anyone that's played with him, from U10 to, the Pat Canadians to the PA Raiders, the Regina Pats, they'll all say he's an excellent teammate. And, that's, that goes a long way. When the season gets hard and there's adversity being hit, and, the ability to be even keel and, show up to the rink and give it your all every day when, mentally you're not there, physically you're not there. I think Dace is one of those guys, like you said, brings energy to the group because of his consistency. And obviously he's not the biggest guy, so he understands there's a certain way that you need to compete and play to, tip the, balance the scales for size. And I think Dace, every game, every practice, he puts his best foot forward. And I think that's, a real honorable thing.
You've got the Saskatoon Blades tonight. What are you expecting from your big city rivals to the north?
Yeah, I think, Saskatoon, they got, identity, which they, play to. They got really good goaltending. They got real fast in transition, and, have a knack for, creating scoring opportunities off of your turnovers. So, I expect us to, have to be mature with the puck, make situational reads with the puck. And I think that if we play smart hockey, and, I think we had a lot of good things cooking last weekend, just with our forecheck, just with our ozone time, with, the things that we were able to generate. I feel like our team is kind of starting to hit our stride right now. And I think for us, just making sure we're carrying it over and just being consistent night in, night out.
I'd definitely be remiss, Coach, if I didn't ask you about the Indigenous Celebration Night coming up on Saturday against the Calgary Hitmen. A very, very special time, and very unique night in the atmosphere that it brings to the arena. Do you feel that on the bench?
Yeah, we've had it going a couple of years now. I've been a part of it, and I think it's such an important event, to bring some new people into the building, and to get some other people, having good conversations, starting conversations with each other. And I think the real cool thing is we've had Connor Bear be, part of the jersey designing a little bit last year, and I know he had a bigger hand in it this year. I know he's extremely proud of his heritage, and so to see him kind of be able to do something outside of hockey. Obviously tied in with hockey still, but I think get himself in the art world, and who knows, maybe he'll be a future clothing designer. So I think that, that little collaboration between him and the artist, I think is, really cool. And I know something that's Connor is really proud of to be part of.
Pats Blades tonight, 7 o'clock at the Brandt Center. Last question for you, Coach. Who's winning Sunday, the Seahawks or Patriots?
I hope the Patriots, but I think it's the Seahawks.
I can go with that. I can understand where you're coming from on that. And I would say the exact same thing if someone asked me to. So, Coach, appreciate you doing this on game day. I know that it's a busy time for you. All the best tonight. Continued success going forward as you make that push for a playoff spot.
I appreciate it. Thanks, pal.
Head coach Brad Herauf of the Regina Pats. As you heard, they play the Saskatoon Blades 7 o'clock tonight at Brandt Center. Of course, he was joining us on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Boy, I tell you, they've got some great treats lined up, including some big Super Bowl specials. Order yours early and get ready to enjoy from Western Pizza, of course, quality products and, again, great food. The Western Pizza guest hotline and Regina Pats head coach Brad Herauf. We need to go to Ottawa momentarily in the nation's capital, find out why they're taking all the riders. That's coming up with AJ Jakubec in moments, plus your clutch performers around the corner. First, though, coming in clutch at the boat show, it's Gloria Evans. We check in with her. This is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. Dave Thomas in for Barney Shankruk and Tegan Whitco on this February 6th edition of the Sports Cage. There's no rules, right? When the boss is away, you'll play. So I've made new rules for clutch performer. I've got 3 today.
All right.
So I'll hammer 2, and then I'll go to you, and then we'll come back for 1. So
sure.
Gabby Shankaruk.
Nice.
Yeah, you know what? Comes up with a couple of goals, couple of assists, overcomes some interesting coaching from Dad. But Gabby, 2 goals, 2 assists, clutch performer. Also, Buck Martinez wraps up his career with the Toronto Blue Jays in the broadcast booth at the age of 77. Overall, a .225 batter with 5 stolen bases in his career and 58 homers. But again, he hit it out of the ballpark with Dan Schulman in the broadcast booth. So Buck Martinez, just for being a good guy, gets a clutch performer. Yours?
Well, a couple easy ones. Yesterday was NFL awards, so all the award winners, you get one there. Also announced the 26 Hall of Fame class, which includes Larry Fitzgerald, Drew Brees, Luke Kuechly.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Roger Craig and Adam Vinatieri as well. So well worth the honors there. Everyone's still, I think, a little stung from the Belichick and Robert Kraft getting not nominated there. But my last one here. So Mike Connolly played for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yes, he did.
As of February 3rd. He was then traded to the Chicago Bulls. On the 4th, the Bulls traded him to the Hornets. And then on the 6th, the Hornets waived him, and he was re-signed by the Timberwolves. I don't think that's exactly a clutch performer, but
that's pretty clutch.
Yeah.
That's the best description, yeah.
Good job to the front office for getting your money back, I guess.
I guess so, right? Exactly. That's like the return on Boxing Day right there.
Exactly.
Right there. All right, the final clutch performer goes to Riders chief historian and all-time good person, Rob Vanstone, as he has come up clutch for us today again. You know what? I feel terrible subjecting more of me to him than he has to already take part in, right? You don't want too much Dave. I get that. But we've been discussing, again, 18th anniversary of Ken Miller taking over as head coach of the Rough Riders, who's the best head coach of all time. And Mr. Vanstone broke it down for us with winning percentage. The top winning percentage goes to Eagle Keys. We've had a number of votes for him, by the way, on the text line, of course, at 306-936-6262. John Payne is next in winning percentage at 63.3. Then Corey Mace at 59.7. But we've disqualified Coach Mace because he still has a job.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Ken Miller is next at 57%, so there's a strong candidate, right, for backing that up. And then you look at Bob Matthews, for example, 53%, just ahead of Bob Shaw. Craig Dickinson and Chris Jones, by the way, both had 50%. Are you right? 500 records as the head coach of the Rough Riders. So you can vote at 306-936-6262. That being said, this guy all around is a good clutch guy, and we got to bring him in because well, I don't want to say that the Ottawa REDBLACKS are changing their name back to the Rough Riders, but they've got enough of them now with pending free agent offers that have been agreed to during this tampering window. The voice of the Ottawa REDBLACKS is Jakubec, and boy, she's been a busy week out Ottawa way, huh?
Yeah, it's been an interesting week for sure, just seeing how it's all played out in the legal tampering window because, as you know, things can change. We already saw that once with James Letcher Jr. and the reports he was coming here, and all of a sudden he ends up in Saskatchewan officially signing, one of the few that has officially signed on the dotted lines before the 10th. So, yeah, interesting times for sure. New head coach, and obviously, you know, the dual role for Ryan Dinwiddie, although I don't think his role really changes much. I don't think Sean Burke's role really changes much. They, you know, work in collaboration to bring in players. And, you know, he's just going to have the final say on the roster. So, in the end, for a team that won 4 games last year, you wanted to make some big changes, and I think the REDBLACKS have done that while also maintaining a pretty good core of players that helped them get to the playoffs in 2024.
So, AJ, let's back things up. The CFL free agent negotiation window opens, and of course, then you can go ahead and have those conversations, apparently, that would have started last Sunday. Do you like this process overall?
I think they should just rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with. Like, I feel like, you know, why not just say on February 1st when this whole thing started that players can just sign. You're a free agent. Simple as that. I mean, and accept that in all sports, like especially through agents, that there's going to be some talks that go on. That's just the reality of professional sports all across the board. So it feels like a bit of a charade to wait 9 more days to make it official. I guess it gets the league in the news cycle a couple of different times, but to me it makes a lot more sense just to rip the Band-Aid off and say, okay, you're all free agents now, have at her.
Okay, so reportedly, the Ottawa REDBLACKS are going to be signing a third of their defense from the Saskatchewan Roughriders in Habakkuk Baldonado, CJ Rivas, and AJ Allen. I think those are 3 exceptional players that the Ottawa REDBLACKS must be just salivating over. When you heard those names and those potential signings, your reaction?
Yeah, very happy, and saw Baldonado obviously a little bit this year, but not as intimately as you would have, or Luke Mullender, who joined our radio station earlier this week. And I know the more I hear about him, the more excited I get about that addition, and someone that, you know, could start and probably should start if healthy for the REDBLACKS in 2026. So that's nice to hear. I mean, CJ Rivas, been watching him from afar from a long time and admiring what he brings to the table, and the consistency that he's brought year in, year out in the CFL. And with AJ Allen, an absolute difference maker as a ratio breaker as well. And that could really help the defense, especially in a spot where they've got a natural replacement for him if he does get hurt in Lucas Cormier. That's also Canadian. So to give the REDBLACKS essentially an extra starter on defense and give them a little bit more flexibility on offense where they can maybe dress an extra American offensive lineman, especially after last year. I mean, they started 4 most of the year last year, but they had so many injuries in the offensive line, and it really hampered them. So the fact that you get this extra flexibility on offense to go along with the fact that A.J. Allen's a really good player, I think makes that one a critical signing for Ottawa.
How much or how big are the fingertips in with Ryan Dinwiddie and assembling this group together? He has built championships in Toronto. I would assume that he'll have a big part of this. You mentioned that him and Sean Burke have been collaborating when it comes to maybe rebuilding or retooling the defense.
Yeah, there's no doubt he's got a big say in this, and I think the reality is Sean Burke, you know, in his role, wants to make sure that he gets the right players that Ryan Dinwiddie can win with. So there's no doubt Ryan a huge part of things in free agency, and they work together on everything. I think it was pretty similar with Bob Dice, but in the end, the final say was with Sean Burke on that. But, from a workload perspective, I don't think it's going to be much different. Like, I don't think Ryan Dinwiddie's going to be spending 20 hours a day on football instead of 16 or whatever it might be. I think, basically he's going to spend the same amount of time doing what he's done in Toronto, but with just that extra caveat that, if there's a Falarin or Malade, for example, that, the management deems they can't keep, well, all of a sudden Dinwiddie might say, well, we need to keep that guy and prioritize him instead of somebody else. So that's really where the difference lies. And no doubt he's got his fingerprints on things. To be honest, I probably expected a little bit more of a Toronto flavor coming here. But, it looks like they've got a real good group of players. And I think they've done a really good job, not only on offense and defense in plugging some holes, but special teams as well, and some guys like Cole and Broderick and Hutter that have been really good special teams players in this league. The fact that they're added here, because that was not a problem for a decade. Like, the last time it was a problem was 2015, before Bob Dice came in, and then he arrived in 2016. And for basically a decade, it's been one of the best units in the Canadian Football League year in, year out. But last year, it definitely slipped. When, Bob Dice relinquished that role, Rick Campbell took over. And I think, there's a variety of reasons for it, but they clearly knew they needed to get some better special teams players into the house. And the fact that they prioritize those players, but also guys like, Allen and Rivas that can play special teams as well. To me, that's kind of the unsung part of the day that we've seen, or the week from the Red Blacks here leading into free agency.
AJ Jakubec is the play-by-play voice of the Ottawa REDBLACKS, as well as everything that's happening in sports in the nation's capital. But you're thinking that, boy, Dave hasn't even asked about Jake Mayer yet. I'm getting there. But you mentioned the Toronto Argonaut influence, and William Fields, a new defensive coordinator coming over from the Argos. What are you expecting? Because he's got to be one of the happiest guys around town. You mentioned that the special teams are going to get a shot in the arm, but boy, I tell you, William Fields has got to be just loving what that group that's being assembled around him looks like.
Yeah, I think so. And these are two men that work together in Toronto, so they're very familiar with one another. That was one of the first things Ryan Dinwiddie did when he arrived, was basically confirm that William Fields was going to be sticking around as his defensive coordinator. So clearly two guys that have a healthy working relationship dating back to their Toronto days. And no question, I think they needed to improve on the pass rush, and getting Maldonado hopefully should help in that regard. The secondary, I know they really liked what they had in the secondary. I think that was one of the things that when Dinwiddie arrived, realized that he had some players back there, but still needed some additions. DeMario Houston and C.J. Rivas and Sam certainly helped that, especially with the Darius Pickett leaving back to Toronto in free agency. But the one area they really wanted to bolster was that linebacking core. They traded for Niles Morgan from Edmonton, the Allen addition, and then C.J. Rivas and Sam gives them, I think, a better look there in terms of what they had before. So we'll see how it plays out, but certainly looks like a pretty strong group if they can work together and improve on what they did in 2025, which, there are a lot of games in 2025 where the defense held them in there. And unfortunately, there are a lot of games where one, if not two phases, maybe let down the defense. They weren't perfect in 2025 for sure, but if you're asking me which was the best of the three phases in 2025 for a 4-win Ottawa REDBLACKS team, to me it was the defense all day. And now with already a pretty good core of players, and you add this group to the mix, I think they should definitely hold up their bargain once again in 2026.
Okay, let's go to the offense. When it comes to luck, the Ottawa REDBLACKS have had none in keeping quarterbacks healthy of late. Jake Maier is coming in. He is a competitor. He wants to get onto the field, and from the outside looking in, he views this as an opportunity for him to come in and find some playing time. Did the Ottawa REDBLACKS sign him to push Drew Brown, or did they sign him to potentially replace Drew Brown?
Yeah, I think they signed him because they knew they needed one of the best backups in the league. And to be fair, I think Dustin Crum provided that. I think he's shown that he's a good backup in the Canadian Football League now, but they need someone that can be a starter in this league. And I don't know if you'd say that Dustin Crum at this stage is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the CFL. And I think Jake Maier, he's in the bottom part of that group, but I think you would categorize him as a top 10 quarterback in the CFL at this stage, given the fact that, he started and won as many games as he did in Calgary. Obviously, it didn't end well there, but, performed very well for Saskatchewan this year when Trevor Harris was down. And a player that absolutely could get that opportunity to start in Ottawa. It's going to be Drew Brown's team. He's the starter. I don't know how long or short that leash is. I think the bottom line with Drew Brown is when he's been healthy, he's been pretty good. But when he hasn't been healthy, and that's either not playing or he's playing at 75%, then, obviously availability is the most, it's maybe the most important ability, and he hasn't been available enough, but also playing hurt, didn't play well enough in some of those games as well. So to have, a little bit more stability in this backup role was necessary here. And I think in terms of Maier starting or not starting, a lot of it is dependent on just what we see from Drew Brown. A, how healthy he is, and B, how he performs, because I think Ryan Dinwiddie likes the healthy Drew Brown based on what he's seen, and, that goes back to an East semifinal in 2024 when he put up 38 points, lost by 20, but, he was outstanding in that game in a losing cause. They just didn't get any help from the defensive side of the ball. He's had some really good games against Toronto. So now put him in his scheme with, a couple of different parts, add in a Greg Bell in the backfield, one of the top running backs in the CFL, add in an Aiden Eberhardt who comes over from the BC Lions and gives them a bit of a different look, and you still have some great weapons in Geno Lewis and Justin Hardy and Khalil Pimpleton. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to work with there. The key is, again, keeping him upright, which a lot of it has to do with, how quickly are you getting the ball out, especially in the CFL. But, it wasn't a banner season for the offensive line. Part of that was due to injury, as I mentioned before, but we'll see if this group can be better in 2026. And it's not a group that was bolstered in free agency. I don't think they were willing, and I think it's a smart move on their part. There weren't a ton of high-end offensive linemen available in free agency this year. And so maybe some people were surprised that they didn't go out and augment that group. But they've done this in the past here in Ottawa where they would overpay for someone in free agency for, quite frankly, someone that wasn't a great player in the league. So I think they made the right choice just to keep building internally. They've got some young guys like Sam Carson that they like as well, and they do have the number one pick in the draft. So they do have some flexibility there. But, man, if they can keep him healthy and upright with time in Ryan Dinwiddie's scheme, then, I would suspect it could be a real bounce-back year for Drew Brown and this offense.
AJ Jakubec is joining us, the voice of the Ottawa REDBLACKS. I was going to throw out the Chad Kelly to Ottawa rumor, but I don't know if I will. What I will instead say, is there anything that's caught you off guard in this free agent negotiation window period thus far?
Not really. I think it's gone to plan. The Chad Kelly one's an interesting one. The one thing I'll say about, obviously, he's got a great relationship with Ryan Dinwiddie, but he's got a great relationship with the Argos head coach as well, and Mike Miller. So we'll see how that plays out. But, the one thing I'll say about Oseg, who owns the Ottawa REDBLACKS, they're quite risk averse when it comes to stuff like that. So to bring in a face of the franchise with, a bit of the checkered past that Chad Kelly has, I don't know how much they would want that.
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see. I think right now they're just trying to make sure it works with the guys that they have in Drew Brown and Jake Mayer. Nothing really surprised me in terms of what the Red Blacks were able to do. I guess maybe the fact that they weren't, when they lost James Letcher Jr. to Saskatchewan, the fact that maybe they weren't able to upgrade that kick return role. They're probably going to go with some young guys. Like, it's nice to have a plan B like Khalil Pimpleton, who's one of the best in the league when he does it. That being said, he's such a priority for the offense that I don't think they want him full-time in that role. But it's nice to have that in your holster if you need a big return or two, because he's an electrifying player. I think that's a guy that needs to be unlocked a little bit more offensively. For whatever reason, they weren't able to do that last year, but he was averaging almost 100 yards receiving a game in the half season that he played in 2024. And, this year just not really able to unlock that. And the offensive coordinator, Tommy Condell, took a lot of heat from the fan base because of it. So we'll see if they can unlock that. But, yeah, beyond that, I wouldn't say there's too much that surprised me in free agency so far.
Anything league-wide at all stand out? Trey Ford to Hamilton, Wynton McManus released from the Argos, anything like that?
Yeah, nothing really stands out for me. It feels like it was one of those years where a lot of the top free agents ended up, sticking with the teams that they were already with, and then Ottawa, Edmonton, some of the non-playoff teams ended up signing the majority of some of the free agents that were out there, which that happens. We saw it here in Ottawa, like Saskatchewan, they were able to keep most of their offense intact, pretty much all their starters. So that was definitely a priority. Obviously, Ottawa rated them on defense, but we saw that here in Ottawa when they had that stretch of 4 seasons when the Red Blacks went to the Grey Cup 3 times and won 1. Calgary was the same way. You'd look at free agency, who were some of the biggest names that were going on the market? Well, generally it was from teams like Ottawa and Calgary. So it's the beauty of this league, having that parity, having the ability with the salary cap that the bad teams can get better in a hurry. And, you saw that in Saskatchewan when Corey Mace arrived. And, for the top teams, it's a little bit tougher to sustain. That's why when you see a team like Winnipeg get to 5 straight Grey Cups as they did in today's world, that's super impressive that they were able to do it. But, yeah, I think I'm excited for 2026 and what it's going to bring, because it does feel like there should be a lot of parity. I feel like there was a lot of parity last year, but I do feel like Ottawa's better. How much better? I don't know. But, they should be an 8-9 win team at least. And if you do that, you're going to be right in the mix to get into the playoffs. Who drops off? Hard to say. I mean, Hamilton looks strong. Montreal doesn't look like they're going anywhere. And Toronto, I think, in the East, a lot's going to depend on what we see and how much we see from Chad Kelly. But, the one thing the Argos don't have going for them, 6 home games and 12 road games with those 3 home games because of the World Cup, going to Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, and Hamilton. To me, a baffling decision by an organization that didn't need the extra buck. I would have played those games in Guelph or London or Kingston. I know Kingston was even brought up by the Ottawa REDBLACKS to the Toronto Argonauts, and that's a place where they had training camp last year. Great facility at Queen's University, and you can get at least 10,000 people in there. So that was baffling to me that Toronto went that way, and so feels like they're already one hand behind their back to start. But we'll see. I mean, Mike Miller's got a pretty impressive pedigree going back to his NFL days, so we'll see how that plays out. But I'm excited for 2026. May can't come soon enough.
That sounds amazing. Before I let you go, who wins the Super Bowl?
I'll take the Seahawks. I just think their defense is too strong, and Sam Darnold, as long as he plays there was almost a good Henry Burris, bad Hank. I know Hank didn't, and Hank wasn't a big fan of good Hank, bad Hank, that narrative. And I understand why. And he wasn't bad Hank very often here in Ottawa, I can tell you that. He was just outstanding in his 3 years here. But it feels like Sam Darnold's got that reputation a little bit. So as long as we don't see bad Sam Darnold, I think the Seahawks defense is just too strong. And quite frankly, I like their offense more with Kenneth Walker as basically the feature back compared to the 1-2. This sounds like a disgruntled fantasy football owner, and it probably is. But, watching Walker share the carries all year with Zach Charbonnet, like that running game it always just seemed to be in neutral, and they couldn't really get it on track. And ever since Walker has been the feature back because Charbonnet went down, and obviously in some ways you should be a better team when you've got both of them available, but I think they're a better offense just using Kenneth Walker. I think he's that good of a running back, so it would not surprise me. I think Darnold, if Seattle wins, has a pretty good chance of being Super Bowl MVP, but it would not surprise me if Kenneth Walker has a massive game and maybe sneaks it from underneath his quarterback. So I'll take the Seahawks. It should be a good game, but that Seahawks defense is so strong, and the fact that they can stop the run as well as they do with Leonard Williams, such a menace on the D-line and the interior for the Seahawks, leads me to believe that, okay, they're gonna force Drake May to pass, and if Seattle gets the lead, I think it's going to be trouble for New England.
I think you're right. AJ, thank you so much for doing this. Enjoy the remainder of the off season, and the Sens, who all of a sudden are pretty hot. Let's see if they make a playoff push or not when we come back from the Olympics. Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, anytime, Dave. Take care.
Voice of the Ottawa REDBLACKS, not the Rough Riders. I was just kidding. On the text line, you don't need to call that out. I was just kidding. Of course, AJ Jakubec joining us from the nation's capital. This is the Sports Cage. Of course, he joins us on the Western Pizza guest hotline. We need to join Gloria Evans. She's out of the boat show. We head that way next. The Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and at 620 CKRM. Well, the Moose Jaw Warriors are one of all 5 Saskatchewan-based franchises that are on the ice tonight in the Western Hockey League. Of course, here in Regina, the Saskatoon Blades taking on the Pats. Game time 7 o'clock at the Brand Center. You'll hear the game here on 620 CKRM starting at 6:30. Meanwhile, Lethbridge Hurricanes are in Prince Albert. Medicine Hat takes on Swift Current. Well, as I mentioned, the Moose Jaw Warriors are playing in Edmonton, taking on the Oil Kings. Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, full slate of games. The Estevan Bruins play Yorkton. Battlefords are at Warman. Nipawin is home to LaRange. Kindersley takes on Melfort. Humboldt, who will have the Grey Cup in appearance and attendance tomorrow night. Humboldt is hosting Melville tonight, while the Weyburn Red Wings are up at the Whitney Forum taking on the Flin Flon Bombers. Saskatchewan Junior Female Hockey League tonight. Regina Wild are in Kindersley to take on the Western Prairie Clippers. The Prairie Junior Hockey League sees the Regina Silver Foxes hosting the Prince Albert Timberjacks, while the Regina Capitals are in Moosomin this evening. Under 18 AAA boys games, Estevan hosts Moose Jaw. Saskatoon plays Saskatoon. Yes, it's the Contacts and Blazers squaring off at Rodham Arena in Saskatoon. And Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, the opening ceremonies are slowly starting to wrap up. The mixed doubles curling, though, is just getting going. Today's draw number 4 for Team Canada, that is Brett Gallant and, of course, his wife Jocelyn Peterman. They fall to the U.S. 7-5. Their record's 3-1. They'll play Great Britain tomorrow. So there you go. That is your sports ticker for Extreme Hockey. Coming up after 5 o'clock, we got a full list of guests, including Sheldon Kennedy, going to join us as we get set to talk some hockey and what's happening with youth hockey in our world, too. It's all coming up here on the Sports Cage at sportscage.com and 620 CKRM. Well, it's a Friday, and, well, time flies when you're having fun or don't know what you're doing. You take your pick on which side of that ratio we're on. I'm Dave Thomas, filling in for Barney and Tegan on this Friday. Colson Schultz is on the other side of the board, having fun and getting set for Regina Pats hockey tonight. They take on the Saskatoon Blades. Pre-game show coming your way. What's the applause for? Don't know what we're doing?
Having fun.
Having fun. Okay, like that. We are having fun. Regina Pats Hockey, as I bang the heck out of this microphone. Regina Pats Hockey is coming up in about 80 minutes or so from now at 6:30. The Pats and Blades, 7 o'clock puck drop over at the Brandt Center. We'll have more on that coming up as we inch closer to 6 o'clock. Also, want to hear from you. Of course, the text line is always open for Prairie Land Rentals. Of course, if you need it, they've got it. Check and talk to the experts themselves as you're dealing with the dealer and owner himself when you walk in over on Albert Street. That is Prairie Land Rentals at 306-936-6262. A couple of things were going on today. First of all, Leon Draisaitl called out his entire team prior to going into the Olympic break. And so far, there are 2 votes. That's it. 2 votes that say, yes, the Edmonton Oilers should consider getting rid of him for his statement that condemned his fellow player, his coaching staff, and the management. There's many others that are saying you are nuts for even thinking of that. Hey, it's your opinion. That's what's great about it. Also on this day, 18 years ago, the Saskatchewan Roughriders promoted Ken Miller from offensive coordinator to head coach. Is Ken Miller the best head coach all time in Saskatchewan Roughrider history? We put it out to you. Eagle Keys, a number of votes coming in for Eagle as having the best winning percentage, of course, in franchise history. A lot of Eagle Keys votes are coming in for being the best. Corey Mace getting a ton of votes too, right? But we disqualified him. Coach Mace would probably be okay with that, but I'm just saying we did disqualify him. Weigh in. Prairie Land Rentals text line 306-936-6262. But for now, let's head out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. So pleased and proud to be joined by NHL alumnus, former Swift Current Bronco. He does so much for people in our communities, whether it's Alberta or here in Saskatchewan. He was at the Saskatchewan Roughrider Foundation Winter Classic back on Saturday, put the skates on. Looked like he had a blast while he was out on the ice. He is Sheldon Kennedy, and he joins us. And Sheldon, right off the top, man, game was back on Saturday. How's the body feeling?
Well, Dave, I got to tell you, that was the first time I'd played a hockey game in over 10 years. So, I was kind of like you get in that old car and you just wanted to get it through town. You didn't want to, spin your tires at the red light or anything. So, I'm a little stiff, but it was a ton of fun. We had a lot of fun.
Is it truly like riding a bike? Because you did have some chances to score in the game.
Well, I did. That goalie was pretty hot. He made some good saves. And then Fancy Fantus. I said, don't get fancy there, Fantus. Take it to the net, just push it and get it to the net. We'll get you a goal. But he kept getting fancy, that guy. So it was a lot of fun. He's a good person.
Yeah, it was funny because his former teammate Darian Durant was questioning his skating ability earlier this week and whether or not he had any finish. So obviously you've proven that correct.
He was not a bad skater, but for a big guy like that, I said, don't, by the time you get to the net, if you're going to stick handle it, the puck will be square. So just go to the net and I'll pass it to you. Yeah. So it's, he's good. It was fun. And it's the first time I'd met any of those guys and just good people. And it was really good for me to get out and to skate. I've got a couple young boys, 3 and 7, and they'd never seen me play before. They've never seen Dad skate or stuff, so they were pumped and they were excited, and so it was just and I was very impressed with the weekend not the weekend, but the event itself. They put on a first class show, and people showed up. But you can tell that this province loved their riders.
Well, Sheldon, I've got to ask, what was it like then having your kids? Like you say, they've never seen Dad skate. That must have been pretty special for you too.
Well, it was, and our oldest is 7, and last time he saw me skate, but he was about 2. But it was on the Battle of the Blades when I was in figure skates. So it was, it was really awesome because I guess I didn't put it in perspective of how important it was for them just to see Dad go out and and participate, right? Just participate, and it was pretty special. So that's basically. I've worked with Cindy Fuchs for many, many years, since back in 1998 when she was with the Red Cross, and when she asked me, I brought it up to my wife Jen at the time, and she says, "Oh, you got to do it for the boys." Well, between the two of them. They got me out there, and I put on the old Bauer 1000s. The last time those were ever in game action was in 1992. So You know, they still worked.
It didn't look like there was going to be much of a doubt that they would work. So if you haven't been on the ice in 10 years playing a hockey game, have you been around the game at all? Have you been with your kids and enjoying that aspect of them growing up and getting older?
Yeah, you know, we farm, and we've moved out to Saskatchewan. We made that decision during COVID. For the last 10 years, we've been growing a land base here in Saskatchewan. We farm down on Lake Diefenbaker. We grow small creamer potatoes. We grow seed canola and stuff like that. So we do that, and you know, we made the move. And the reason we made the move is we don't have any family connections here. In Saskatoon or anything, but we saw that it was, when it was rated the top city in Canada to raise a family. So that was important to my wife and I. My wife is in the healthcare business. She's a doctor here at RUH. And so we just are really looking forward to blending into the community, giving back to the community how we can, getting involved, raising our kids. And, you know, I took a step back from, you know, being, you know, in the public eye around, you know, some heavy issues, which we were involved in for many, many years. And I'm proud of that work, but I think, you know, it was time to focus on my family and being an older father, and being able to have this chance again. Shame on me if I don't take full advantage of it.
That is so cool. And Sheldon Kennedy, you giving back is really what fascinates me. And to me, it makes me a better person because you've tried to make people a better person in the things that you have done. Is it an opportunity at this point to I don't want to say take credit, but to look back and say, wow, we've really gone ahead and moved the needle on this a bit?
Well, you know what? And I appreciate you bringing this up because obviously it's my, you know, it's been a passion of mine, and yeah, we have moved the needle. I mean, I think, Dave, when I told my story about what was going on, I look at the early newspaper articles and stuff that were out there. I mean, I was, you know, people were blaming me for how dare they bring this upon Graham James, the Hockey Man of the Year. But I think, you know, back then it was an understanding, and it was, you know, it was our, we didn't understand the impact of that type of trauma or that type of, you know, abuse. Abuse brings trauma. Abuse is one of the, you know, the main contributors to, you know, mental health, addiction, and the list goes on. So, you know, I think what we've done is, you know, over the years, I mean, I rollerbladed across the country. I remember the conversations that we had in every little town across this country. And, you know, all the stories, the time, the place, the person, the gender was different, but the impact was very consistent. And that's one thing that I really wanted to try to focus on. And I have really tried to focus on making the invisible visible to people. And I think we know this. I mean, if you look at one of the leading issues that we have in communities across our country and other countries now, and it's, you know, addiction and homelessness. And I mean, when you look at, you know, over 80% of adults in treatment centers and detox centers have disclosed early childhood abuse. I mean, we need to get ahead of this stuff, and we need to understand that and connect the dots. So right now, you know, I think, you know, where I've taken a lot of pride in is really trying to connect the dots. So, you know, it's not just a police problem. It's not just a health problem. It's not just a social services problem or a mental health problem. I mean, you know, when we look at the systems that have the legislative mandate to do this work, it's all of our issues, and they touch each one of these institutions. So hence the reason, you know, when we talk about teams and we talk about a good team, we need to be working together to do the best job that we can in this space. And that's, you know, we've opened up 2 child advocacy centers in Alberta, Sheldon Kennedy Center of Excellence in Red Deer, where we've actually been able to change legislation to bring these systems together to actually really focus on the issue itself. The incident is one thing, but the issue, the impact is another. And to me, if we don't focus on the impact and give people the opportunity and reach them early, I think that, you know, by the time they're into adulthood, it becomes a lot tougher to get to the root of the problem. And so I've tried to focus there. And, you know, obviously, we've learned a lot, but, I'm not the only one pulling on the rope anymore, Dave. I mean, there's lots of people here doing this. And I think the key to anything, which I've learned from, people, mentors and people that have helped guide me in my life, is that, when we look at social issues or you look at big issues, they need focus, and they need to be broken down to the smallest, common denominator. And that's what I've tried to do, is just break the stuff down into the lowest common denominator so that it's understandable for people, so that we can get our heads around it, and then we can start moving forward. But, that's tough taking a difficult issue and simplifying it, especially when there's so much emotion around it. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
The Sheldon Kennedy Center of Excellence has raised nearly $13 million for programming for youth, which I think is absolutely amazing. But one thing that really struck and hit home hard to me was that our company took it upon ourselves to incorporate lessons from Respect Group that you have got a hand in. And I thought of myself as, a very well-rounded individual, understanding of the world around me. And then I went into this, and it brought a whole new a whole new portion of awareness to me. And that's something to take credit for if you're opening the eyes of not just youth, but everyone. And I guess that goes back to you saying we're all connected.
Well, and yeah, the Respect in the Workplace program, Dave, and Harvard Developments, the Harvard group of companies, heavily involved. I mean, Roseanne Hill, husband Brad Blaisdell worked for us for I think close to 14 years. And he was a fierce advocate of this, respect in the workplace. And basically, our whole mandate, when you look at these types of issues, our whole mandate was to bring a confidence within an organization, but also empower the bystander. We need to empower the bystander, because lots of times people don't know what it is, if it is and if it isn't. And, and they don't know where to go, and they don't know how to speak up. So, I credit Brad Blaisdell, the Regina boy, for really driving our workplace program across this country. He was a big driver there. But again, the same principles, right? Empower the bystander. Most incidences that happen, there's bystanders that have seen it, witnessed it, or heard it. And, we need them to be able to have the confidence and feel safe to bring that forward.
The impact of the person is what Sheldon Kennedy, I would suggest, is all about, with what you have given back. And as a father, as a member of the community, I can't thank you enough, but I can't let you go either without telling me what you think is going to happen in the Olympic hockey tournament.
Jeez. Well, hopefully they get that arena done. I don't know. I'm like, I think, to me, it's exciting. I love watching the Olympics in general, all of the sports. And, but I mean, if you look at the group that they've put together, for the Team Canada, we've got a great shot. One of the boys from my hometown, I grew up with his dad, Travis Sanheim. Just a great kid, and we'll be cheering for him. Good old hometown boy. But I think in general, we need a good shot in the arm. Our country needs a good shot in the arm. And I think if you look at the Olympics and you look at the, what that brings, it brings people together. And I hope that, and I'm pretty confident that all the Canadian athletes are gonna make us feel proud.
I understand that pressure is a privilege. How much pressure do you think are on the athletes? Maybe not just the hockey teams, the men's and women's, but all the athletes that are over in Italy performing.
Well, I think there's a ton of pressure. And, they've been getting public dollars for training and stuff. So, I'm sure that's reminded of them all the time. And, so when you take all of that into consideration, I think there's a ton of pressure for Canadian athletes to medal, especially in winter sports. Given the the country being such a big player in the winter sports, I think there's a ton of pressure. And so, but again, I love pressure, right? And so, and I think at the end of the day, these athletes are so close. Like, you're talking hundredths of a second. So, it is like one little sliver of, whatever. You run over a pine cone on a corner and, who knows. But, I mean, you got to be perfect to win. And being perfect is a tough thing to do. It's nearly impossible.
Sheldon Kennedy, before I let you go, let's go full circle on this then. If we're looking at the men's Olympic hockey team, they say, you know what, don't worry. You didn't need to bring Zach Hyman. Anybody can play with Connor McDavid. So in your professional opinion and assessment, could Andy Fantuz have played with Connor McDavid?
Well, I think he could, actually, as long as he doesn't get too fancy. Just go to the net, Fantuz. Let McDavid be fancy out there. Just go straight to the net. And, what a good guy. We had some good laughs. It was quite funny, actually. But good people. That's what made it fun. Sheldon Kennedy, a great quote that I read once is that heroes are people that give voices to those who don't have a voice of their own, and you have definitely done that. Thank you so much for taking time and doing this, and we wish you all the best in the new venture and out in the farm, and we'll try some of those potatoes someday. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thanks. I appreciate it, Dave. I really appreciate the chat. Sheldon Kennedy joining us on the Western Pizza guest hotline here on the Sports Cage. Taking shots at Fantuz. Durant's going to love hearing that on Monday. I think. Maybe. I'll leave it right there. Again, thanks to Sheldon Kennedy. Coming up, if you missed it, Farhan Lalji is live in San Francisco. We are going to play that conversation that we had earlier today to set up Super Bowl 60 and get you updated on what's happening in the CFL free agent negotiation window. That's coming up in just a little bit. We do have breaking news in that CFL free agency picture. We'll tell you about that coming up and more in a moment. We are rolling on a Friday. This is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. All righty, taking a look at CFL free agency news. Toronto Argonauts have signed returner Janarian Grant. He will not enter free agent. The pending free agent was signed to a new contract extension by the Boatmen earlier this afternoon. Also signing a deal with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Jake Seresna. Former Edmonton Elk has inked a 2-year deal for the American defensive lineman. On the ice tonight, Western Hockey League going to be a busy place as all 5 Saskatchewan-based franchises are on the freeze. The Saskatoon Blades are here in Regina to take on the Pats tonight. Puck drops 7 o'clock over at the Brandt Center. Elsewhere, Prince Albert welcomes Lethbridge. Medicine Hat takes on Swift Current. Edmonton home to Moose Jaw. SJHL, busy night tonight. The Bruins are in Yorkton to take on the Terriers. Battleford's playing Warman. Nipawin home to LaRange. Kindersley plays Melfort. Humboldt welcomes Melville, and the Weyburn Red Wings are up at the Whitney Forum in Flin Flon to play the Bombers. In the Saskatchewan Junior Female Hockey League today, the Regina Wild are taking on the Western Prairie Clippers tonight, while in the Prairie Junior Hockey League, the Regina Silver Foxes welcome PA. The Capitals are in Moosomin to take on the Steelhawks. In under 18 AAA boys action, Moose Jaw plays Estevan at 8 o'clock, and the Saskatoon Contacts are playing the Blazers in an all-Saskatoon matchup. Overseas, the Milan Cortina Olympic Games are officially underway as the opening ceremony has come to a conclusion. On the ice today, mixed doubles curling, Team Canada falls to the U.S. 7-5. Canada's record is now 3-1. They'll play Great Britain tomorrow. On the text line, of course, we want to thank everybody for getting in on the Prairieland Rentals text line on this Friday, of course, brought to you by Nelson's Homes on the Sports Cage. We asked, first and foremost, should Leon Draisaitl be let go or moved by the Edmonton Oilers after he called out the entire organization after a loss to Calgary earlier this week? And we have a third person that agrees. We've got 3. Well, and I don't want to say agree because I really didn't lay it out there what I was thinking, but 3 people now say, yes, you're right. Leon Draisaitl should be moved if they can get the right return. However, there is a vast majority that say that I'm nuts for even suggesting that the Oilers would consider. Nuts?
Have we verified the fandom of this third vote?
Well, no, we haven't. That's a good point. It could be another Flames fan.
Because
right?
The first vote, which is yours, Canucks fan.
Yeah.
Second vote, Flames fan. And those, in my opinion, do feel biased a little bit.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Somewhat. I think you called that correctly.
So
I think so.
Just an observation.
Yes.
Got to collect a bit more data.
Understand.
On this, that's all I'm saying.
Understand. Also, we threw out this 18-year anniversary of Ken Miller being promoted from offensive coordinator to head coach. Eagle Keys well in the running, as is Coach Mace. Even though we disqualified him from the voting.
He's a fan favorite.
Well, you do what he's done, right? and pretty darn good record. So already in the top 5 all-time winning percentage of Saskatchewan Roughriders head coaches, courtesy of Rob Vanstone. Thank you so much, Mr. Vanstone.
Absolutely. One thing I just recalled, we haven't sprinkled yet.
Oh, we need to sprinkle. Good call. Good call. And it's pretty simple what we're sprinkling for SportsCage, isn't it? And Sports Select, of course. Sports Select, I tell you, they make your picks simple. You can do it online. You can be wherever you want. Just generate a QR code, lock in your bet, and, of course, your local lotto spot retailer can help you out there, too. Every bet 100% legal with a chance of winning cash in hand. Sports Select, when you're ready to play, bet on the original. Must be 18 plus to play responsibly, okay? You've got the Super Bowl up there, right?
Yep.
What do you think?
I think it's pretty well documented that I'm not the sprinkler on this show.
No, I understood that, but it's Seattle by 5. Can you go wrong? Again, Seattle, New England being the underdog, right? So you give them 5.
Yeah, I agree that that's what everyone is saying. The problem is that New England in the last 3 weeks has beaten top 5 defenses, and Seattle is number 6.
Interesting.
And I believe even if you stretch it back a bit further, there's like a couple more top 10 defenses that New England has beaten. So defense wins championships. However, this New England team, whether you're calling it the players or the coaching, has beaten said defenses.
Yeah, true.
Now, I've also had to play against the Seattle defense in fantasy football, and you don't usually see a defense putting up 22 fantasy points. So that is my big question is New England's offense going to continue to beat the defense, or is the Seattle defense going to be what it has been this whole season and turn the ball over, generate points, right? So I genuinely don't know, but I don't agree that it's going to be a blowout.
I agree.
In all of that, so I feel like I'll pull a Barney here and take the tie.
Take the tie. Pulling a Barney. I like that.
That's me. I am definitely not the advice giver when it comes to sprinkling, though.
Going with the tie is Colson. All right, fair enough. But you can also go props bets as well with passing yards. Sam Darnold, of course, or Drake May. You can go receptions and more. Just go to SportsCage and Sports Select. Again, sprinkle of the day. Again, everybody wins and you have a lot of fun. Of course, keep it within means. But again, have fun with Sports Select and the sprinkle of the day. Speaking of the Super Bowl, Farhan Lalji, if you missed him earlier, is live in San Francisco for Super Bowl 60. We'll recap that conversation coming up. Tegan will be here on the SportsCage with a huge show lined up on Monday, including Toronto Blue Jays commentator, of course, the host of Blue Jays Central, Jamie Campbell, among her many guests on Monday. Going to be a great show. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Again, hang tight. Farhan Lalji coming up on the other side of the break. This is the SportsCage streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM.